Hi, in this video, I'm going to go over this problem, example of a join problem. This is in relation to the DVD rental database. We want to write a query that returns a table with the customer first name, last name, film title, payment amount, and rental date. Order the results by the last name, A to Z. What is the payment amount for the 8th record? So just like in any queries, the first thing I like to think about is which tables in the database are relevant here. So I'm going to need the customer first name. Okay, so that's going to come from this first table, customer table. Okay, so is the last name, the film title and payment amount. Okay, the film title exists in this table over here. The payment amount is down here. Okay, and the rental date, which is over here. Okay, so those are the columns that I need. Okay, I need to link everything together using joins. Okay, so there's multiple strategies here. One strategy is to tie in. It has to start, or the most outer join is going to have to consist of the customer. So when we write our query, select, and then let's put our columns, right, from, and then it'll be from the customer table. Okay, and then you can do either some kind of a left or a inner join. For join, let's put a join for now. And then after this will be a set of, joins inside, but ultimately it's going to join with that customer table. And that's kind of how we visualize. So if I want to link this table, there isn't a way to link the film title directly. So we are going to have to go and link this with the inventory table somehow, and then use that joins table to link with the rest. Okay. So one way to kind of think about it is, the film, I'll write it this way, film plus the inventory, that's going to give you some, I'll call it table A, okay? And then this combination, the combination between rental and payment will give you table B, okay? And then you can do a join, so call it like this. You do a join between these two tables, okay? And then finally, you do a join between this final table, okay, with the customer table. This will be the final join. This, okay. So we're really looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 joins, right? That's one strategy. Yeah. So you can write this out, but there are a few details here that I want to point out. These are important details. So we'll go to the next slide here and show you the important difference. So again, I have this ER diagram. And this question about whether should we use a left join or inner join, it can get tricky based on how the question is worded. So I think really, it comes down to just a simple question, right? If you were to look at the ER diagram, okay, for example, if you look at the relationship between the customer and rental, if you look at this relationship, it tells you that some customers may not have any rentals at all. Okay, so then if you were to create an output table with all of the customers listed, even if they didn't have any rentals, then you use a left join with the anchoring, what I call the anchoring table being the customer, right? So it would be customer left join rental on something. Okay. If you look at this ER diagram as well, I think the relationship to film and inventory, since we're looking at rentals, so I don't know if that's going to be an inner join, because we only want to look at the films that were actually rented. So the inner join will be fine. I think the bigger question here is the relation between rental and payment. Based on the ER diagram, some rentals, there's no payment associated with it. All right, so then do we only look at rentals that had a payment amount, or do we want to retain those rentals that didn't have any payment amounts? Okay, so try to summarize here. So if we want a table with all customers, whether or not they had any rentals at all, okay, then we should be using a left join, right? Because we want to anchor on that customer table, list out every customer in my table, regardless if they had a rental transaction or not. And between the relation between rentals and payment, do I want to retain all records where, even if the rental didn't have any payment associated with it, okay? That would also be a left join then, right? So in this situation, we would have to, these two tables would create a join, okay? So that would be an inner join. Okay? And let's say that's gonna create table A, okay? And then the relationship between these two, okay, that's gonna be a left join, right? Because we wanna retain even those rentals that didn't have any payments associated with it, right? And that'll result into table B, okay? And then here, it'll be A and then inner join with, okay, B, okay, which I'll say is called C, okay? And then finally here, it will be I'll call it customer, then left join with C, okay? So that's roughly the path we're gonna take. We're gonna combine A and B here to get C, and then do a join with customer. That's gonna be the final output table. Okay, so I'm gonna go into Postgres now and write this out, okay? So let me go into Postgres here. Okay, so let me copy in the actual the problem statement. So it's easy for us to kind of read that as we're writing out the query. Okay, I'll comment this out. Yeah, but at least I can see what are some of the columns that I need in this query. But it's much easier for me to write this all out at once. This is one of the challenges when we try to do it on, standing up in front of everybody. Is it's very difficult. It's very easy to miss things. But in front of my screen here, it's a lot easier to see here. Okay, so write a query that returns table with the customer first name, last name, film title, payment amount, etc. Right? Let me go back to my ER diagram here. So let me check these off again. So I have customer ID in my customer table, my first name, last name, all in the customer table, and the film title is all the way out here in the film table. And then the payment amount is down here, and the rental date is over here. Okay, so I'm going to use aliases here to make it easier. But now at least I know. So I'm going to use C for customer, P for payment. I'm going to use the first letter of each one of these tables as my alias. So when I start writing it, I know in advance, and I can just start abbreviating some of these, so I don't have to keep writing them out. Okay, so let me go back to Postgres and let me start writing these out. Okay. Okay, so select, and again, let's start with the case where we're gonna look at all customers and all rentals, even if there was no payment associated with it, and even if the customers, some of the customers don't have any rentals. Okay, so we need the first name. Okay, and just to be clear, I'm gonna just make the reference to the tables. So I have to check for ambiguity. Don't cause it. I want to avoid the ambiguous reference there. So I'm going to let C equal to my customer table. So I'll just write that out here. C is going to be my customer table. Okay, and let's see. So I'm going to do customer. Okay, C first name. We have C last name. Okay, And then we have the film title. Let's call it F and title. Okay, and then let me just write the F down here so we know what we're referencing. We're talking about the film table. Okay, and then let's see here. We also need the amount. So P, I'll call it P amount. So then I'll let P equal to the payment table. Okay, and then we have the rental. So call it R rental date. Okay, and then I'm gonna let R equal to the rental table. So it's easier for us to understand what's going on. Okay, so these are all the only columns I need. And like I said, I'm gonna anchor on the customer table because I want to do a left join at the end with the customer table being the left table or the A table. So customer C, remember I changed the reference to C here, and I'm going to do a left join, and then I'm going to join with a bunch of other stuff, right? So I'm going to skip the lines here, and inside this left join, I know it's going to get big here, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do, I'll put it in quotes here, is let's join, let's go back to the ER diagram, and I'll point out the first thing I want to do to remember is I'm going to join these two tables over here, inventory and the film table. Okay, I'm going to make a join between these two tables. The common or the key that I'm going to use to join these two is the film ID. Okay, so I'm going to use that key to link these two tables. Okay, so let me go back, Postgres again, and so I'm going to write that inner query. So this has to be inner query because in the query we're looking at is really has to do with rentals, and you can't really have rentals if there is no inventory, right? So I can assume that this is an inner query. So let's do a film F inner join. Okay, remember I have to specify that film table. The alias for is F. Call it inventory. I'll just call it I here on F dot film ID equals I dot film underscore ID. Yes, that's the join, the first inner joined table. Okay. There's a second table, right? I'm going to skip a line here. The second table I want to join, right? Let me go to that screen now. Second join I'm talking about is left join between payment and rental, right? I'm going to join these two tables, and I'm going to do a left join because I want to retain all the records in rental, even if there was no payment associated with it. Okay, so based on the ER diagram, I know there are some rentals where there's no payment associated with it. Okay, so let me go back now and right through, let's do an inner join. There should be a left join, right? Left join between rental and payment. Okay, so I'm going to write that in here. I'll do the rental or left join on payment P on P dot rental ID equals R dot rental underscore ID. Okay, so that is the inner join. It's a join table between rental and payment. So then I get to join these two tables together, right? So these two tables, I can just do a simple inner join between these two tables. Okay, so I'll do an inner join between these two tables. I'm going to bring this one up. Okay, and then what I'm going to do it on, let's go back to your diagram. I'm going to link these two. Okay, so I remember I have this portion, and now I have this portion, right? Okay, so how do I then link these two tables? Really, the direct link right now is from the inventory table to the rental table. And really the only way that I can link these two then is using the inventory ID, right? Using those two, using the inventory ID key, right? So that's how I'm going to link these two. Okay. So let me again go back to Postgres here. Inner join now. So remember, this is the first inner join table. This is the second left join table. Okay, I'm doing inner join between those two. And then it's going to be on and between the inventory ID, the inventory table, and the inventory ID from the rental table, right? So I dot inventory ID equals R dot inventory underscore ID. Okay, so that forms the outside, right? So now you can already see the highlighted quotes here. Now I can link these two all together, right? And the way we link it to the customers table, again, for it to go back, the ER diagram is the key I'm going to use is the customer ID, right? So there is a customer ID down here in the rental table. So let's use the customer ID to link it to the customer table, okay? And again, we kind of explain why you have to use a left join here. It's already left joined, right? So I've already written out. So this will just be on C dot customer ID equals R dot customer ID, okay? And the problem says order by the last name. So I'll just order it by last name. And let's see if this query runs. Hopefully it runs and I haven't made any typos. Let's give it a try. And it looks like it ran, okay? So there's 16,048 rows, right? And see these null values, right? So there are some, rentals where there was no amount, okay? And the 8th record here is Raphael Abney Goodfellow Salute, and the amount is 999, okay? So that's one way, okay? If you were to do left joins, the result, this would be the answer, right? This would be the result, okay? Now let's go back and look at a different scenario, okay? So this is when we want a table with all customers and all rentals, okay? That's what this case was, okay? So let's look at another case, right? What if we want a table with all customers who had at least one rental with the rental, okay? And then all paid rentals, okay? So if you look at the relationship between customer and rental, this means that I'm only looking at customers who had at least one record, associated record in the rental table. And then the relationship between rental and payment, I'm looking at all rentals where there was at least one record within the payment table. Okay, and based on the ER diagram, you can tell that it could be no zero, and it can zero, but it could also be many records, right? That's the relationship. Okay, so in this case, what type of join will we have? So because we're looking at people with actual rental records from a customer, this would be an inner join, okay? And then for all paid rentals, the relationship between the rental table and the payment table, this would not be an inner join, okay? So versus the previous case, this would require inner join all across, right? And again, the strategy is to link the film and inventory table using inner join, and then now we're going to link the rental and payment table using the inner join, and not the left join, because we want to look at only rentals with a payment record. And then we're going to do a linkage between this combined table, this join table, with this join table, okay? And that resulting table, let's just call it table table C. I'm sorry, not C. I'll call it table Z. Okay, we're going to do a table Z, an inner join with customer, right? And that should give us our correct output table. Okay, so let's go on Postgres and make this adjustment. So I don't really have to rewrite this, right? I can just take what I had before in the previous case. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it. The only thing that I have to modify now is the joins, right? So instead of a left join between rental and payment, now we're looking at rentals with rentals with a payment, right? So paid rentals. So now this will be an inner join. And we're also looking at customers who at least had one rental. So this would now be an inner join as well, okay? And let's run that part there and see the result, okay? So this is the result. And now if you scroll down, there is no null value in the amount, right? So this is all paid rentals, okay? And the 8th record here is 99 cents, okay? So again, it's very similar, but depending on what assumption you're making, okay, the results are very different. If we're assuming looking at all customers and all rentals, even if there was no payment, Oops, I'm sorry, I did it. Let me run that. I don't think I highlighted something correctly. Let's see, line 7. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not, I don't need that, right? It's my query ended here. Okay, let's run that. So this is a case where we're looking at all customers, whether or not they had any rentals. We're going to keep everybody. But in this case, I think every customer does at least have one rental record. What's easier to see is like the rentals with no payments, right? So this rental, there was no payment associated with this rental for some reason. Okay, you scroll down, you have some null values for the payment amount. Okay, so that was the first case. But if we want only the records where the customers had at least one rental and all the rentals were paid, then we run these inner joins and you see the results are now different. Okay, so hopefully this helps you understand. Again, these are the assumptions I made. Okay, and hopefully this helps you clarify any confusion you had with trying to answer this particular question. Okay, all right, thanks for listening. Take care.